Let's talk about women who hit men. Yes, it happens. Even very attractive men, men with jobs and stuff, get hit, get abused by women. You know, there's so many women on my channel who say all men are this and all men are that. Some of you, you know who you are. I don't think it's fair, because there are a lot of really good men. There are a lot of really shitty women who abuse men who hit them. I've talked to men like that, and, you know, I'm glad they confide in me because they're very ashamed about it. These are guys that can get many women, but they ended up with some woman who was, they made an immediate connection. She was very beautiful, intelligent, charming. They felt this connection, but, you know, within a few months in, the first time, you know, it happens, she loses her cool. Her anger goes from 0 to 60 in a split second. Usually they have some kind of anger issue or borderline personality disorder, and they will go from 0 to 60. They'll start hitting. Sometimes you have to call 911 on them. They will hurt you, give you bruises. And you start to feel scared. You start to feel afraid that you're going to set them off. I actually know a few women who are borderline personality. I know one of them who did hit her husband, and she told me about it because she was really trying to, this woman was really trying to figure out how to stop it, but she couldn't help herself. Every time she got mad for the littlest thing, he might say, you know, we should replace this red sofa with the blue one. She would feel rejected, abandoned, and start hitting him and lashing out and being contemptuous. I think for borderline, the only thing that works is like dialectic or diabolical behavioral therapy. There's like a therapy that works for them. But usually these women don't want to work on anything at all. They just blame you. Like my friend, at least she would apologize afterward and feel bad, but she would do it, and after many years he finally left her. And that's when she decided to get into therapy, because she didn't want to break up her family with their kids. But I don't know how they're doing. I stopped talking to them because I just don't want to be around people who are that way. They don't feel safe to me if they're that unhinged. But some guys don't care because the connection is really good. They made this connection. They overlook things. I think Johnny Depp is a prime example of a successful man who got abused in domestic violence by Amber Heard. If you watched that trial or you followed it, that was a public case where we saw how evil women can be. Amber Heard apparently was narcissistic, borderline personality disorder, and she never took accountability for anything at all. And fortunately, Johnny Depp didn't stay with her that long, but he had bruises, she hit him, and she didn't apologize. So this video is just to say there are women who commit domestic abuse. Even if they don't hit you, they can insult you, tell you that you're worthless, that your dick sucks, or whatever, however they want to put you down. You don't earn enough money. Have you ever heard that? But they can hit you, and that's what they want to do. Now, it takes a certain man to stay with that. There's always the people pleasers. It's the same with women who get into domestic violence situations. Like if you follow the case of J.P. Miller and his wife, ex-wife Micah, who finally, it's controversial if she ended herself or if he had something to do with it. But she had had 14 police reports and they did nothing because they were still married. They couldn't do anything. That's where Micah's law comes in, to give the police powers to act if someone is exerting coercive control. But getting back to the women, I don't think that men talk enough about the women who are abusive to them. But again, okay, what I was trying to say is that Micah was a people pleaser. She kept trying to figure out, how can I love him more? How can I deal with this? But when someone shows you who they are, you know, you have to believe them and not stay with them. And that goes along with the video I made earlier today about what does an emotionally healthy relationship look like. And a lot of that comes from someone internally feeling deep in their core, this behavior is good, I'm okay with this, and I'm not okay with that. It's like an instant spidery sense. The same way that your mouth is going to curdle up to the sour taste of a lemon, an emotionally healthy person will curdle up at the first indication that someone is controlling or belittling. They're immediately going to be repulsed, But someone who grew up in an unhealthy way is just going to see that as normal and overlook it. I'll be okay with this. I can fix her. I can fix him. Because we're blind to our own patterns, because they feel familiar. We all have our own patterns. But some of these patterns just boggle our minds more. But yeah, there are women who are absolutely evil. They lie. They cheat. They're alcoholics. They're drug addicts. They're lazy. They sleep all day. They use you for your money. They don't take accountability. And some of them will call you names and hit you and slap you and bruise you. And, you know, what are you going to do? Fight back? Most men are not going to fight back. The only thing you can do is get into therapy and figure out why you're still there. And unlike women who are an abuser, and women who are with men who abuse them, often are afraid to leave because the man will often the man will kill the woman right when she's ready to leave. That's how Micah Miller ended up dead. A lot of people think the husband has something to do with it. It's unclear right now, but for sure, the women I've never heard of a case of an abusive woman who came out after the guy and killed him. I've never heard of that. But I have heard of women in relationships killing men. What about Courtney Clenny? Courtney Clenny, the OnlyFans model who made millions of dollars a year. She was one of the top OnlyFans models. She killed her boyfriend. You gotta look it up. She stabbed him with a knife. And that wasn't the first time she stabbed him. And he was a people pleaser. Is there videos in the elevator with them? You have to look up Courtney Clenny. Look under videos. She had a private elevator up to her penthouse suite. And she's in there. She's like hitting on him. And he's just trying to get away or hold her arms down. He's not hitting her back. He was abused. She stabbed him once in the leg. And he just kept coming back to her. He was a people pleaser. And to him, it was all okay. He thought this was okay. I don't think anyone knew about it until, you know, she killed him. And she hasn't apologized. She said it was self-defense. She said, he was trying to hurt me, so I flung the knife at him. She was like 6, she says she was like 6 feet away. Yeah, she flung a knife at him that hard that it ended up in the center of his heart. Knives are not even a professional knife thrower could probably pull that off. So you have to watch out for these abusive women, guys. You cannot. You got to look out for these red flags. Not all women are sugar and spice. Some of them will poison you. What about Kouri Richins? Kouri. The Mormon mom of 3 or 4 who killed her husband. She poisoned him with fentanyl. Hear about women poisoning their husbands? Putting some lye. There's another one on YouTube. The husband put a camera up and she kept pouring like lye in his drink. She was trying to kill him, poison him. Even Kouri Richins' husband, you know, she tried a few times before to kill him. He said, I think my wife is trying to kill me. And he stayed with her. Don't stay with women who, if you think she's trying to kill you, don't stay with her. Get some therapy, guys. You should not let women hit you. Go off on you and have rage attacks. And then you're walking around on eggshells trying to make sure she doesn't have another rage attack. That's no way to live. But maybe it's familiar. And you're like, oh, I know how to deal with an angry woman. My mother was an angry woman. That's just repeating a bad cycle. Like for me, I know how to be with an emotionally unavailable man. My father was emotionally unavailable. My mother was emotionally unavailable to some extent, even though they loved me. So that feels kind of familiar, although painful. If it feels painful, get into therapy, figure that stuff out with a good therapist who can help you. And some of these people, if you go into couples counseling, some of these people are really good manipulators. They'll convince the therapist that it's all your fault. Don't let people gaslight you. If you're unhappy, you have a reason to be unhappy. And usually what I found is that the person who's trying to look at themselves is usually the one who's the people pleaser, and the person who's saying it's all your fault is the grandiose person. And grandiose people don't change, you guys. Like the lady I talked about who finally got into therapy, she only did that because her husband left. He was going to divorce her. So, you know, unless you actually are so done that they can tell you're done and you're leaving. If they don't want you to leave, they'll work on it. But I don't know how successful that therapy even is. I'm interested in if you know any violent, abusive women, or what kind of therapy works for borderline personality disorder. This video is for all the guys. And guys, if you want to rant about these evil, bitchy women who've mistreated you personally, I don't want to hear anything about all women are bad, but personal stories, things that happened to you or to someone you actually know, drop it in the comments, because this isn't a channel to say that women are good and guys are bad. There is equally bad behavior in both sexes. I usually just, you know, I talk about my experience and my experiences with men. My experience with women is that women are sugar and spice and everything nice. That's how my experience. It wasn't until I watched the Amber Heard trial a few years ago that I realized they're evil women. And then I started watching videos on YouTube, women talking about their narcissistic mothers. I really didn't believe it. I'm like, I don't get it. I don't think that's true. I didn't really get it till I watched the Amber Heard trial and I saw it. How evil she was. How nasty. But she put on this very alluring facade. She love-bombed him with sex. And that's another thing these borderline women do. They start out by love-bombing you and giving you great sex. But that sex doesn't last because they're just love-bombing you. And a healthy woman isn't going to offer 100% of her sexuality to you right away. A healthy relationship, people open up to each other gradually over time as they get to know each other and build trust. So I knew someone who had issues. I'm not going to give her name. It's someone I know. And I observed her. She was, I'm not friends with this person anymore. And she liked other women, I think because she was abused by men in her childhood. And she would, in the short time I knew her, she fell in love with so many women. She'd be like, oh yeah, I went to the store and the woman who worked there in the produce, she was so gorgeous. Or the cashier, she was so hot. And a couple of times we worked together around some other people. And she starts with this fawning, like she finds a woman and she just latches on. She starts love-bombing her with her gaze, but she really means it. She doesn't realize she's doing it. And then she's just like looking at them and talking to them and flirting and just staring. And the woman feels so adored. The recipient feels so adored by the gaze. And then my friend, then she would never want to get together with these women though. And if she did, she would find something wrong with them. Like she was very emotionally immature. She'd never had a relationship. So what I'm saying is that it's dangerous. If you're around a woman who starts gazing at you immediately and just love-bombing you and you feel so adored as a man, run. Because in my experience, that's all high danger territory. These women they're in some kind of a fawning hypnotic trance. They go into this fawning hypnotic trance, but then their real personality comes out, and they're likely the hitters, the abusers, or they just lose interest in you very quickly. And that's also the women who lose interest in you. I know women who left really good men because they got bored or lost interest. That's weird. That's unhealthy. That's someone who cannot sustain a relationship. Okay, I only know of 2 cases where women were married to a guy who was a really decent guy, and they lost interest after so many years. They just got bored and lost interest. And both these women had neglectful childhoods. So, you know, you got to check into people's childhoods. I mean, you could say my childhood wasn't ideal, but my relationship was pretty healthy, relatively healthy. At least it wasn't like violent or explosive. It wasn't ideal, okay? I learned from it. But I was never hit or abused or cheated on, okay? So I'm talking about the big things. My ex-husband didn't have a volatile temper. These women, he didn't lose interest in me, and I didn't lose interest in him. There was none of that. These are really big red flags, and they come out in people who were abandoned by their parents, at a young age or abused by their parents, one or both, neglected or abused, they're at high risk for having really crappy relationships. At high risk. And maybe they can solve it through some good therapy, but a lot of people don't want to go to therapy to change themselves. If you told me to go to therapy to change myself, I'd be like, why should I? I'm fine. But yeah, there are many abusive women, nasty women, and you call them Karens. They call them Karens. Somehow they got the name Karen. They'd like to start drama, you know. Narcissistic moms, abusive moms, moms who don't protect their children, and women who hit men and who hit their children. Even Jennifer Soto, who kind of sold her daughter out to her boyfriend for sex so she could have him stay with her. She put her boyfriend with her young daughter, 9, 10, 11. It's like, you guys go sleep in the other room. I need a good night's sleep. That's an abusive mom. I don't think she hit anyone, but she definitely caused a lot of damage. So that's just another category of evil women. These evil, nasty women. A lot of them are evil and nasty. I'm going to agree with you. So this is a place for you guys. And I don't like comments where like all men are nasty or all women are nasty, because that's not true. But there are nasty men and nasty women. And so again, if you have stories of nasty women, evil women, or things that happen to you, this is your place. You can vent specific stories, not like generalizing or catastrophizing, you know, but specific stories. And also, if you think that these women can ever change through therapy, because I don't think they can. But I could be wrong. Thank you for watching my video.